Hi everyone, and welcome to today's IKEA furniture hack. What we have here today is a very functional but kind of boring IKEA drafting table. This is a Girton tabletop with a pair of Finvard trestle legs. I have no idea how to spell those things, but if you type them in, I mean, who knows what you'll find on Google. I'm sure they'll come up. These are both, all of them, made out of solid beech wood, which is pretty nice wood for IKEA especially. I mean, they use a lot of that, but there's also a lot of particle board and things like that going around. And one of the things I like about this is that it is solid wood. Beech is an awful lot like maple and has a lot of the same characteristics. So it's a durable wood and pretty fair quality. But it's a little boring. It's completely unfinished. You might be asking yourself why a talented woodworker like myself would even buy furniture from IKEA. I probably couldn't produce even this within the budget that I could get it from IKEA. So they do have their place for getting things that are functional and cheap. However, this unfinished wood is pretty boring, and what I want to show you today is how to spice it up a little bit. We're going to use a couple different techniques to affect the tabletop one way and the legs another way. I have a favorite technique that I use. It's very simple, where I take steel wool and vinegar, and you combine them together. They form a chemical reaction, the end result of which is a chemical called iron acetate. Reacts with the tannins in the wood, and that might be a little more boring and scientific than you care for, but what's cool about it is it kind of instantly, before your eyes, weathers the wood and gives it more of an antique look or a rustic kind of look. And for the tabletop, I'd like to hit that with a blowtorch. Maple, beech, birch, those are trees that have a lot of sugar, obviously maple syrup, right? So they have a lot of sugar in the wood, and when you hit it with a blowtorch, it actually caramelizes and sort of burns and creates these golden colors out of that sugar inside the wood. So we have these very plain colors, and without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so to start off, I think what we'll do is look at what I'll be doing to the legs of this table, which is to treat it with that compound called iron acetate. I think the cool thing about this project is that it has supplies that you probably already have around your house. I'll start off with this because it doesn't involve a blowtorch, and not everyone has a blowtorch around their house. And the reality is that you could treat the tabletop in the same method as you're treating the legs here. But it's just household ingredients: vinegar, steel wool, something people usually have around. For the purposes of this, we're going to want to go with an ultra fine steel wool, like a 000 grade. The reason for that, it's a chemical reaction we're going after, so we want as much surface area as possible, and this is very fine. It will break down more easily. It's going to be happening, and you want to do this probably about 24 hours before you plan to actually stain your table. You want to create this chemical. It's going to break down, the vinegar is going to break down the steel wool and turn it into iron acetate. The vinegar will react in that way. So all that you really need to do is grab probably just one pad of steel wool. You take your vinegar and pour it in pretty generously. I'm actually kind of low on vinegar here, but as you can see, I buy it in bulk. But you would probably fill it up, really just so it's above the level of the steel wool in a cup or jar or whatever container you're using. And you just leave it overnight. About 24 hours is really all that you need. The longer you let this go, the stronger the chemical will be, but it will have, even after an hour of sitting there, it will have some amount of effect on the wood. I happen to have this really gross, nasty container. I use this stuff all the time, so I have a constant batch going on. So I already have a batch worked up that I'll use here. And what I want to do, I have a piece of maple here in front of me. I just kind of want to demonstrate what's going to happen here. Actually, another supply that you're going to want are just some basic, plastic gloves, nitrile gloves, because this stuff smells pretty bad and you really don't want it seeping into your skin. It's not going to hurt you in any way. It's pretty gross, as you can see. So what we'll do here is just for demonstration purposes, wipe this on to some maple. You don't need to really drench it. I mean, it's going to react just from a single coat being put on. And I'm going to set this aside. I have another piece here. This is also maple, so I'll wipe that down. You can see this has gotten a very dark kind of green look to it. What's interesting is that every piece varies a little bit, and it's about the tannic acids that are in the in the wood. That's what's reacting with the vinegar. So you can see that piece where I wiped has already had a very drastic and kind of immediate transformation. We can do it here and literally just watch the process as it turns right before our eyes. Meanwhile, this piece that I put down a minute ago, has had a less drastic transformation. It's one of the kind of interesting things about this. So that's just going to require 1 or 2 or 3 additional applications of the chemical to really get the desired color. But it will turn over time. I mean, already there's a pretty significant difference, just not as extreme as in the other type of wood. Woods like pine are going to have a totally different color that they turn. They'll tend to just turn to kind of like a tan-like color. It's not particularly exciting. Woods like oak, on the other hand, this is actually cedar, but I don't know what will happen here. Woods like oak will actually turn black, so I usually don't use it on oak because it's just kind of a little too extreme. But maple is one of my favorites, and so I expect that the beech wood, since it is very, very similar to maple, is going to react in a manner similar to what we see here. Because there are all different pieces of wood in that frame or in the tabletop, if you're going to do that, there are even more pieces there. My expectation would be that each piece is going to react to the chemical a little differently, and so you won't have a boring, monotonous look. You'll have a really unique, kind of varied piece of furniture that results. So what I'm going to do, I already have this batch of sludge made up, and so when you have your fresh batch made, just have a spray bottle here. It went for about $1, and I'm just going to pour some of this in here the easiest way, since this furniture is already assembled and is I don't really want to take it apart. There's a lot of different surfaces there. I'm just going to put it into a spray bottle, and rather than wiping it with a cloth, I'm going to spray the whole piece down with this, and that should give the desired effect. Yeah, by the way, this is full of not just steel wool, but nails. I mean, anything that you have that's made out of steel can go into vinegar and have this reaction. So if you don't have steel wool handy, you can use old nails or really anything like that that's made out of steel. If it's a galvanized or if it's stainless, or if it's a completely different metal, it's really not going to work. It has to be steel. Ugh, looks very attractive. So now that the solution is ready, I'm going to go take this outside because it's going to be very messy. I'll take this and the furniture outside and start spraying. Okay, so here I am outside ready to start spraying these down. As you can see, I live on a pretty big hill, so it's windy here all the time, and hopefully you can hear my voice from that. But at any rate, I will just get to work and start spraying this down. So I had some technical difficulties with my camera here, which I didn't realize until after recording. So what you missed in those exciting lost minutes, the lost tapes, was that my spray bottle broke. And pro tip: you might want to spend more than $1 on a spray bottle because it kind of crapped out on me. So I switched back over to the rag and wiped these down by hand for the remainder. I might do a second coat, but you can see there's already some pretty cool colors starting to form in here, and I certainly think it's a lot more interesting than the plain unfinished maple that we had before. I'm going to leave this all outside for a few minutes to dry and kind of air out a little bit. There will be something of a vinegar smell for probably a day or two after, although if you coat them with like a wipe-on poly, like what I'm going to use a little later on, that will help cut down the smell. And then you have poly fumes to worry about instead. But just a note on the vinegar, I'm not going to do my tabletop in vinegar because not only do I want to get a couple different looks in here, but the vinegar is acidic, and obviously if you're using a drafting table, you don't want to introduce acid into your paper and prematurely yellow it, so just a consideration. But with that said, I'm going to let these dry and we'll get into the blowtorching of the tabletop. Okay, so just a reminder what we're doing here with the blowtorch. We're really, aside from physically burning the wood, there's probably going to be a little extra color in here because this wood is so sugar rich, and so it will actually caramelize some of the sugars in here and add to that kind of golden brown look. So I've just got a very simple like $10 propane tank from Home Depot, or a little blowtorch and a lighter. Trying to keep this board as vertically oriented as possible because this type of torch is a very kind of cheap valve. So if you go too horizontal, it will let unburnt gas in here and create like a big explosion. And I don't want to do that. So please, no explosions. So I'm gonna get into it. What you want to do with this is get a nice big flame on there, and you don't want to burn the wood, light it on fire. You're keeping the torch some amount of inches back. You'll get a feel for it. Start with the back side first if you're not comfortable with it, but the goal here is just to kind of give it a little golden color, and there's going to be a lot of variation from the way that you're torching. You'll see dark spots, and I think that adds some visual interest to it. So okay, so now I'm just going to hit the edges really fast and maybe give this a light sand, and then it should be ready to go. Okay, so I already think that this is looking a lot more interesting than before. There's no way you can deny that. It's a little less, there's a little less color on the base wood than I would have liked. So what I'm going to do is use a little dye stain from General Finishes, and I've diluted it a little bit with water. I mean, it's a really cool stain. I just want to take a second to recommend it because it's low odor. It dries very quickly. It's eco-friendly, which is great, and you can cut it up to 20% with water, which is easier than most other things. I mean, open pore woods like oak, they accept it a lot more easily than your regular Minwax stuff off the shelf. So I'm just going to give this a pretty quick wipe with General Finishes. I think this is vintage cherry here, and that'll kind of warm up the color, get it a little bit more where I want it to be. Now just give it a quick flip, get the bottom side. Taking a clean rag and going over this to wipe off any excess. Dye stain is a little different than traditional, I shouldn't say traditional, but oil-based stain where you have to wipe it away immediately. The dye stain, for the most part, unless you put an especially heavy coat on, is going to be absorbed into the wood. So you do a little bit of a wipe just to get excess off, but it's not the same as with an oil stain where you're really taking a lot off. I mean, you can see already that the surface is mostly dry. Just gonna hit this with maybe one more quick coat. Okay, so here's the final product. I took a little time and put some varnish on top, just a wipe-on poly, and I think the whole piece is just much better looking than before. It's really got this kind of interesting tabletop, and the legs here have this nice kind of rustic finish, and I just much happier with this than with kind of the boring white birch that was the way it came from IKEA. So there's a lot of different ways you could take this, but I hope that you've enjoyed watching and have some ideas of your own that you've kind of come up with. And thanks again.